Hi everyone! Welcome back to It's All Light. I'm your host Natalie Baugh, and man, it's been a little bit, at least a month, and I'm so excited to be back and going to keep working on elevating, upgrading my podcast. But tonight I'm so excited. I have a guest with me, and his name is Blake Harsh.
Hello.
And Blake, how do we know each other? Let's start there and then tell us about yourself.
Oh, how do we know each other?
I know, I was thinking about that. I was like, how do I
We're
know
at
Blake?
BYU together.
Yep.
Yep. And yeah, probably just mutual friends, I guess, right?
Yeah, I knew your sister's husband.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
His little sister's one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So it's probably through that connection.
And then
we've known each other a while.
Right, and then a girl I worked with is also one of your friends, Kylie.
Oh yeah. Kylie and I go way back.
Yeah. So you're from Murray, Utah?
Yeah. Born and raised there. Same house all growing up, actually. So I got roots in that neighborhood.
I love that.
So yeah, I never moved around until I was 18, and then I feel like I've been moving around ever since.
Really, just like with college and mission and.
Yeah, and then just work real estate, just always moving around. But yeah, when I was 18, I served a mission, and I served out in the Caribbean.
Wow.
It was really neat. I got called to the Dominican Republic, but then partway through that mission, I got sent out to form a new mission out in some islands in the Southern Caribbean.
Like San Lucia? No, what St.
No,
Lucia?
more south than that, like
Wow.
Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. That was where I mainly was. They speak a language called Papiamento there.
Holy cow.
And so I love that language. I love those people.
Wow. It sounds beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's weird. It's you get the beautiful turquoise blue Caribbean water, but it's like they're deserts. Like you get cactus everywhere. And
What?
so it's kind of a weird thing. Yeah.
Are there mountains?
No. They're pretty small islands.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's fun. Speak a language called Papiamento.
Papiamento. I've never heard of that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty small. But I do some translation work to kind of keep up on it.
Really?
I translate for General Conference.
Oh, that's impressive.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know they even translated it out to those smaller languages.
Yeah, they do a ton. They're like claim to fame is they translate General Conference in more languages than the UN. That's like their claim to fame. It's usually about...
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's usually 90 to 120 languages each session.
Wow. That is so cool.
Yeah.
The world is so small yet so big.
I know. Like, there's just little nooks and crannies everywhere. And we just started an effort to translate the Book of Mormon as well into Papiamento.
In that language.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm on that team, which is a huge blessing and honor. I think it's so cool.
Where's the nearest temple for those islands?
Either Venezuela, but that kind of gets difficult, and so...
Oh, wow, you're that south.
Yeah, oh yeah, like if you're on the south part of Aruba on a clear day, you can see the mountains of Venezuela out on the horizon.
Is Aruba where the Bermuda Triangle is, or is that a different area?
No, it's a different area.
It's by Bermuda, I must.
Yeah.
Bermuda, Aruba in my head
It's the same.
sound the same.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So with this big/small world, what are you hoping to do with your life in the world?
Good question. I have a passion for the space industry.
Space.
So the space has always interested me ever since I was a little kid, and
What
I guess
does Star Trek say? The new frontier?
yeah. Oh no, the ultimate frontier.
Yeah.
Right or something. I don't know. I should
something
know
like
that. I really should know that.
But yeah, no, space is amazing. If someone said you'd rather go explore the ocean or space, I would say space.
Yeah.
The ocean is terrifying.
Yeah.
Space probably too if I learned more about it, but
Yeah. And so I went to BYU, studied mechanical engineering.
Wow.
Graduated about 2.5 years ago.
nice.
Got a job at Northrop Grumman.
Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
Wow, and that does engineering stuff.
Yeah. They're a big
Me over here knowing
space and defense company.
Wow.
And
That
so
is cool.
here in Utah, Northrop Grumman's kind of bread and butter is solid rocket boosters.
Solid rocket boosters.
Yeah. So it's
Wow.
there's two types of rockets really, like liquid and solid. Liquid boosters are kind of more common for later stages because they're you can turn them off and on, you can throttle them.
Like once it's shot up into space and certain things fall off, there's certain boosters. Is that what you you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It obviously depends on the application.
Okay.
But solid rocket boosters, they only provide thrust because once they light, there's nothing you can do to turn them off. They're just gonna give you that thrust and.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's really cool to be in Utah where like there's really just our facilities in Utah are pretty much where all the solid rocket boosters come from.
Wow.
And
Utah's known for that.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Wow. I just went to the Space and Air Museum in DC. There's the main one, and then there's the other one outside the city.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. Something H.
Yeah,
Have you been there?
I've been to the one outside the
It's
city.
huge,
That
and
one was
there's
so
the space
cool.
shuttle.
Yeah, I touched it.
And so
you weren't supposed to, but I did.
It's so cool, but just trying to learn a little bit of the science there. There's so much. So mechanical engineering, obviously when I think of that, I think of cars, but mechanical engineering means so much more than that.
Yeah, it's very broad.
It's just the structure of things. It's engineering.
Yeah, so it can go, I mean, you could go into like analysis, you can go into like more manufacturing, you can go into design. Like it's a very broad, and that's why I did it, because I knew I liked the space industry, but I wasn't sure like so I like to keep it broad. And same thing with my master's degree. I'm doing space systems engineering.
Space systems engineering from Johns Hopkins.
Yes.
Amazing.
And so I'll graduate in the spring, which I'm stoked about. It's been
school
brutal.
It's hard.
It's been brutal, yeah.
No, I haven't been in school in 4+ years, and I talked to my little sister about all her homework she's having to do, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of nice not worrying about that. Yeah, at the same time, it opens new doors in education. So why did you choose to get your master's? What's your goal?
I think it just like initially it was just to open doors. Like I talked to a lot of people about it, and some people said that it's necessary, others said it wasn't.
To have your master's in space systems?
Yeah, like at my work. But a lot of people I would talk to at my work, they're like, "Oh, I was gonna do that, but then I got really used to not having homework. Life got in the way, kids, all that kind of stuff." And so, for me, I was just like, "Well, I'm okay with getting to a situation where I overqualify myself, and so might as well just get right into it before life gets in the way."
I think that's smart. Yeah.
I graduated in April and started that fall.
Wow.
Got right into it.
So it's been a 2.5-year program about?
Yeah.
Wow. So overall 3 years.
It'll be about 2.5 by the time I finish.
Impressive. That's awesome. And you'll stay with the same company probably and just do more things?
Yeah. Of course it's like a pay bump right away, and then it'll open doors and
cool.
And then it'll just kind of propel my career. We'll see where it goes.
That is awesome. Well, there's half the episode for you, because that's obviously something he's excited and passionate about. But you have a fun long list of what do you light up about. Tell us why you light up about those things as you share them.
Yeah. That's what is the first thing, skiing, winter sports, skiing and snowboarding, but mostly skiing.
Now is the time. To start prepping. The snow has come.
Oh yeah, like the mountains are getting white, and I love it. I kind of joke, like the only reason, like it's a good thing I like space, because if I didn't, I would just be a ski bum in my mom's basement. Like I love skiing. It's just something like, you're up there, you're with your best friends, you're hanging out on the chairlift, then you're going and doing something that's very challenging and very difficult. And but there's something about, like, because I snowboard too, and I'm pretty good at it, but there's something about skiing where like I just feel more comfortable on skis than I do like walking around, which is a wild thing to say.
Awesome.
But I love it. It's something special to me.
Skiing is so fun. I've never truly tried snowboarding, so I can't plea, but I kind of grew up with we don't like snowboarders mentality. And now it's not that I don't like them. I just think skiing's the higher of the two. It's
because it is, yeah. No, don't get me wrong. Snowboarding's really fun though, but I'm definitely a skier at heart.
Icon or Epic?
Icon. Yeah.
It's so fun.
Oh yeah.
And then backflips. Do you do backflips on your skis?
Yes, I do. And I love it. I love it so much.
So what about that? And I think we'll get here in a minute, but you kind of mentioned like pushing yourself, but also taking a risk, but not being too crazy that you hurt yourself. How do you find that?
Yeah. And like, I think a lot of people, especially like when I'll meet somebody who skis and they want to kind of come with me and my friends, they'll be like, "Oh wow, like you're crazy! Like I can't believe that you backflip, or I can't believe that you front flip, or
on your
throw
skis into
throw a
snow.
7, or whatever trick it is." Like, and that's because all they see is just the trick. They don't see the hours I've put into those tricks, like all the falls, all just the absolute slams that I've taken trying to learn that. Like, I have a video of my first ever attempt doing a backflip on skis. I make it halfway because I'd done a backflip on a tramp, but you got to throw it way harder because your boots and skis are heavy.
So
I make it halfway around, and then it was powder day, luckily,
Thank
but
goodness.
I just head first and just chunk into the snow. My feet are just wiggling around.
Dang.
So we've come a long way, but it's like a lot of things in life, you just see the finished result, and so it's easy to be like, oh wow, that's crazy, I could never do that. But like for me, it doesn't feel it doesn't feel as impressive because I've seen and I know the work it took to do that.
That is interesting. I feel like this theme has been coming up a little more. Like so there's a place called Woodward in Park City, the indoor place.
I'm very familiar with it. Yeah,
and you can practice into a foam pit on like skis with wheels, basically. And it was cool to watch some people there. But we were there for work, and my coworker got into skateboarding with her whole family recently. And she's in her 30s, I think, and just like proving to yourself that you can do maybe things you wouldn't think you were able to do. But I think in order to want to do that, it stems from like your internal desire. Like, where did your desire to be like, I'm going to do a backflip on my skis come from? Because if that's not propelling you, then you'd probably give up after a bad fall.
Right. And it's the I think it's the chase of the adrenaline rush. Because there's nothing that feels better than like having something that's a huge like mental barrier or mental block.
Okay, I see that.
And then overcoming that. And then so like and knowing that like, and then the added pressure of if you don't overcome it, you're gonna feel a little bit of pain. It makes it feel that much better when you do, That
is true. I mean, in my head, it's running. I try to push myself further. I've taken a big long break of that, but like pushing myself to go a further distance, or even if I was hurt, just like pushing it through. The reward factor. There's less adrenaline in that for me, but I think at the end, that reward factor tries, like I try to let it catapult me into other areas of my life.
Yeah.
You feel the same?
Oh, totally. Like I feel like, the same thing is pushing through, some hard falls, and then the fear, like once you take a hard fall, you're afraid to do it again. Like my most recent trick was
scary.
Getting a 720, which is two rotations
360s.
around. Yeah. And I would make it 90 degrees short so many times, and my skis would hit, and I would just catch that edge and slam down.
So it's up, spin while you go down.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's like, you've slammed a couple times, you kind of hurt, but you want it, but you know that if you don't do it right, you're going to slam again, it's going to hurt. And but then when you take off, and the moment you take off, whether you're going to do it or not. Like you just have that feeling, and then you lace it, you come down, you stomp it out, and it just feels so good. And that's like a similar feeling to like, when I'm doing homework, like when I'm like sitting there trying to do some crazy, math calculation or something, and I'm getting my butt kicked, and I'm trying to like, Google my way through it, but like, you get to these higher levels, it's a little harder to do that. Like there's no Khan Academy.
I can't even fathom.
And so, but then once you get it and you understand it, and like you get, you get a handle on it, and then you go and you do really well on the test, or, that also feels really rewarding to me. Like
you're putting in the hard work.
I wouldn't call it an adrenaline rush, but it definitely is very rewarding.
It's parallel to that. So getting to certain levels, do you feel like you're a good goal setter, or is it more of like your vision of finishing your master's degree? Like you said, it might not be your most favorite thing because it's hard and it's school, but it's getting you to that level you want to be at.
Yeah, I feel like I'm better at like big overarching goals. Like I want to work in the space industry. I want to get a master's degree. I want to stomp a backflip. I want to get a 720, or like big goals. But like to break them down into the smaller, more bite-sized goals, I kind of have trouble with that. I feel like that might handicap me a little bit with like, I feel like I could be, if I were to set better goals, I could have better time management skills.
Right. Well, that's everybody's thing, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes just by living it and getting it done is doing that, just maybe without the labels that some people put to things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This year was interesting for me. I feel like I wasn't that good at setting goals. Usually every year I set a hefty amount of goals. This year I was like, we're going to just like not be too crazy and just see what happens. And it's had its good, but it's also, I haven't been as fulfilled. Because I'm like, well, what am I working toward? What am I pushing for? Because the more you're able to push for yourself, the more you're able to just accomplish, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What helps you push yourself?
Again, I think like it's that push of like adrenaline or adrenaline-like feeling. Whereas like, when it's like skiing or, something more on the athletic side, there's a very real adrenaline rush that comes with that. But there's also like the rush of like watching a rocket that I built get fired.
That would
like
be so cool.
That happened. It took me, it was a year, about a year after I started my job. We fired it's called the Sentinel missile. It's the new ICBM that's going to replace the Minuteman missiles.
Wow.
It's like the nukes that go in the silos,
I don't know, but
so
cool.
yeah, so
like
it's
nodding,
a new. We're building a new nuke. It's there's 3 stages. 2 of them are solid, and so this was a first stage one, and I like.
It's insane.
I was involved all through this. Like I had been inside of this, checking the installation. Like
all the pieces.
I like literally like walked inside this booster before it got cast with propellant, and then there I was watching it being fired. And it was like a classified event, and so it was like you had to get on the list to get there. It was really
classified.
It was really cool and very fulfilling to see that.
Wow,
and
just
like,
to be a part of that.
Yeah, and like for me, like that was like that made my 5 years of mechanical engineering worth it right there. Like that was so worth it.
I bet. I know engineering's like the most high credit hours and hardest major you could ever do.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
masters.
I think there's like harder one, but like for me, it kicked my butt.
Wow.
Like, it was really difficult, and it took a lot of work.
Do you feel like you're good at envisioning yourself in the future, like having accomplished what you're working on right now?
Absolutely. I feel like visualization, that's like a big thing for me.
I could see it, like how you talk. I'm like, this is a concept a lot of people know of, right? Like imagine yourself finishing the race, or like, I mean, for me, that's my mentality. Or you just imagine yourself already where you want to be, and that just helps you stick to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the way you talk, tell us more how you envision that.
Yeah, like I'll sometimes I'll come home from like a long day at work, knowing that I'm staring at the barrel of a couple hours of homework before I can do anything. And like literally sometimes I'm just sitting there and my laptop's shut and I'm just like, I don't want to do this. And I think about myself like on the Johns Hopkins field walking up to the stage to get my diploma and like something like that.
Cool.
Or a more real thing is
cool
like skiing. I do that all the time. Like even now, like I'm pretty dialed in on my backflips. Like I don't mess up on those very often, but every time before I hit the run into the jump, I'll like sit there for a moment and just feel in my head like what does that motion feel like? Like what's the size of the jump? Am I gonna have to, tuck or lay out, or what's that gonna look like? How am I gonna spot my landing? How's that gonna feel? And I'll go through that whole motion and then I'll go and hit the jump.
Well, it's engineering in your mind in and of itself for how your body works with your skis and everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I can do is maybe get an inch off the ground on a little jump on my skis. And even sometimes if it's like 3 inches, I feel a little bit more of a thrill.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's like, I feel like my willpower is sometimes weaker just in general, and I'm trying to figure out how to tap into that. And maybe that's just the visualization or attaching some type of reward to it. I'm trying to get away from like a reward-based system and mentality, but the more I've studied about ADHD, the more I realize that ADHD kind of thrive with reward systems. So it's like if I learned how to create those for myself, I don't know. What helps you? I don't know. Do you have like rewards you give yourself to like want to do these things, or it just comes naturally?
No, yeah, I think I don't have like formal rewards necessarily, but I think there is definitely like rewards that I give myself. Like, I mean, when you're skiing, like the reward is there. Like you stomp that trip, you feel good. You feel like that adrenaline rush is the reward.
Okay.
But like, with like work and school and kind of working hard and that kind of stuff, like I've always like, ever since I was little, like my dad was really good at instilling like a work before play kind of mentality.
Really?
And so for me, it's like, yeah, I can kind of like, if I want to come home from work and just sit around and do nothing and relax, like I can do that. But then I'm gonna have to do my homework on the weekends when I'd rather be doing something fun.
Right.
And so it's kind of that like,
smart,
and it's not like a formal thing, but it's just like, I mean, when you have due dates every week or something, you don't have you don't have too much wiggle room.
For me, I feel like if I have a plan, then I'm more likely to stick to it. And if I have a plan, then it opens up more time for the things I love and enjoy doing. But yeah, I think setting aside that time and then that discipline you have to be like, no, I'm not going to do this because I have homework and then I can go play on the weekends. I feel like I've been play hard while you work hard, but the play has usually come first just because that's like I thrive off of having fun. How do you learn that hard work mentality? Like you said, you were raised that way. What helped you learn that?
Well, I mean, when I was little, it wasn't like I had to because my mom wouldn't let me leave the house until my chores were done. You know,
that is also pretty good. It taught you that lesson.
Yeah, and then like in college, like my undergrad, I wasn't as good at that. Like if I had. I feel like I suffer from FOMO very badly.
It happens.
Yeah. And so I would but I also like had to do my homework and like it took me, a long time to do. So like there'd be a lot of times where, I'd get home from school, I'd be doing homework and then they'd be like, oh, let's go get something to eat. And then let's go do something. I'd go to a party or something. And then we'd come back and then I would like sit back down and do my homework again while like people went and watched a movie or something. Like
you'd have to draw the line.
Yeah, and so it took discipline, but like I also like it's that same mentality of never wanting. It's like always wanting to keep doors open. Like, I had a lot of like friends that I was studying with that like they were really into the whole C's get degrees kind of mentality, which I'm not bashing on it because it's true. Like that totally works, but like. For me, like I didn't want to have any doors shut, and like if I would have just gotten C's, I wouldn't have gotten into my graduate program.
Right, you have to keep your, like we were talking about, the vision in mind, right? And and I guess have an idea of where you want to go. Otherwise, you're not gonna go as far if you don't know where you're going, right?
Yeah, but even if you don't know where you're going, like when I was in my undergrad, I didn't know that I wanted to go to Johns Hopkins to do a space systems engineering degree.
Oh.
But just the idea of keeping doors open, like knowing that, oh yeah, grad school could be a possibility, but also just knowing like the space industry is very competitive. It's very high barrier to entry. And so I just trying to be as competitive as I can. And that kind of helped me. And then again, just keeping doors open so that then, when I graduated and started applying, like I had the credentials that got me looked at for a school like Johns Hopkins.
That's so cool. So I think to those listening who might not know what they're doing or how they're going to get where they feel like they could be, it would just be to remember, keep your doors open and look for the possibilities.
Yeah, I think like, if you think about like the definition of luck is like when opportunity meets preparation. And so you need both of those things.
Opportunity
like
meets preparation.
But if you're not prepared, then the opportunity will pass you by. But you also need to be on the lookout for the opportunity. So it's a two-pronged approach, I feel like.
And I feel like sometimes you hear people say like, oh, what's meant for you won't miss you. But at the same time, if you're not looking for it, if you're not setting your sights on what you want your life to be, then you might miss it, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if I subscribe to the whole if it's meant to be, it won't miss you, because I think that could sell yourself short, because that kind of implies that everything meant for you takes no preparation.
We have more control than we think.
Yeah. But it takes work. Like, I mean, if you'd have told me when I was in high school that I was going to become a rocket scientist, I'd be like, no way, But then, you just kind of recognize potential and seize opportunities and work really, really hard, and you can get there.
Recognize potential, seize possibilities, work really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And you'll get there. I have a lot of life searching to do after this, to think about like what do I want to do to feel accomplished, or what does success look like? And we're all at different stages in our lives too, right? And I don't know, you do, like, we could read a few more of what else you light up about, because life's made up of not just the one thing you're working hard toward. You have to factor in all these other things you enjoy doing, and family and friends and relationships. Just for fun, before we jump into this other topic, Blake lights up about space, rockets, so we talked about those, backflips, skiing, snowboarding, and then he added boating, real estate, social events, your truck and off-roading, and skiing with Alec. Before we dive into maybe one more of those, what were we? I was just about to ask you something. No, I can't remember. Something about passion, but let's dive into one of those, and it'll circle back when I remember what I was going to ask you. Is there one of those you want that's like resonating in your life right now that others could benefit from hearing about?
Yeah. I feel like I am also very passionate about real estate.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Why?
I think that's something that is, I view it as a way for me to ensure that my life is always fulfilling. And it's kind of like a big why for me, where like I did sales through school, through my undergrad, and that allowed me to, not work during the semester, which was really helpful. And it also gave me a little bit of extra cash to invest in my first rental property.
Cool.
And then, I mean, that was awesome, because I got to live with all my best friends, and they paid me to live with me, which was super cool.
No, honestly, a lot of people do this, and I wish I would have known a little bit more to like figure it out financially, but that's so awesome. Yeah,
and then, I've rolled it into, I'm on my third property.
Wow.
And I've just kind of lived in, each one as I've done it. And so you get we can get into the mechanics of that. But the reason why I do that is, in my head, it's a way to get some supplemental income, and it's kind of like a long-term play, because it's not, there's not really any kind of a get rich quick in this, but it's a long-term play where it'll supplement my income, eventually, hopefully make me wealthy. But in the meantime, when I'm at work, I don't need to be focused on, I need to like put in extra hours and get this promotion, or I need to take this leadership or management job that I don't really want, but it's the pay bump. And I would much rather just be the kind of guy that, is going to work because I enjoy what I do, which is what I'm doing right now. Like, luckily, I think rockets are so cool. And so
they are so cool.
It's hard to find something to work that I don't really like to do. Maybe, paperwork, but that's, but in the future, I want to be in a position where, like, my son has a baseball game, so no matter what happens at work, I don't care, I'm leaving early, or like, like there's just anything. I want to be more like family focused, and then not have to worry about the money implications, because I've done, this real estate investing on the side that helps me be balanced out. So I don't have to be chasing the money. I can chase my passions, both in the career and outside of my career.
I think that's very smart. I love that you said at the beginning, like, real estate for you, real estate for you is important and brings you fulfillment. And I think you kind of just explained how that happens. Because when I looked at your list of like your passions, like, I would think skiing would bring you the most fulfillment, or, fulfilling job, right? In space, something you enjoy. But it's cool that like real estate for you is one of the most fulfilling things because of your long-term plan and the benefits of it.
Right.
And you're putting in the hard work to then hopefully reap more and more benefits as time goes on.
Yeah, and skiing's an expensive hobby too, so.
And skiing is an expensive hobby. That is true. So who like inspired you to get into real estate? What would you say to those wanting to get into it?
Yeah, my brother-in-law Parker Vassar, he's really big into real estate,
awesome.
and he has been awesome in just kind of holding my hand and helping me
Mentor.
get into it, and with questions and stuff. He's been awesome, and he's really good at that. So he's been an awesome person to look up to and to kind of have in my corner to help me with that.
So maybe go out there and find a mentor. LinkedIn messages can go a long way if you don't know anyone.
Yeah.
I think they push that a lot in college, just like that networking aspect and just being like, let's go to lunch. Let me interview you and pick your brain. And how'd you get to where you are now? And times are always changing, but like there are tools out there that people have figured out. And I think social media is a little too saturated with people talking about all sorts of stuff like this. And so then people just tune it out. But if you have like that connection, that face-to-face, someone you maybe care about or someone who wants to invest in you as a person and help you. Do you feel like that was an aspect? I'm assuming he's your brother-in-law. So
Yeah, I think, he's family, so I think he would have helped me whether he's a investor or not, but I think he is. He's a very good person. But I think most people are very willing to like help you if you are respectful and you reach out to them in a respectful way.
Yeah.
Like I think of like at work, like I was just at lunch with a friend, and he was kind of he's older in the company. He knows more people. He says hi to this guy that sits down with us and talks a little bit, and I talk with him. He seems like a really, really nice guy, and I don't have no idea who he is. He finishes up his lunch, he gets up and leaves, and I was like, "Who was that guy?" And he's like, "Oh, that's." He's like a very high up in the company, like
Cool.
It works on the classified program, but I was like, wow. And he's like, but he's a very nice guy. The guy, he was telling me like, you should reach out to him, just see if you can, go to lunch with him. And so I just like reach out to him, and I was like, hey, like, it was great meeting you at lunch today. I've got some career questions. I'm very impressed with you and what you've done. Would you want to sit down and, let me get you lunch and we'll talk about it. And he was so willing to do it. Like he sat down and like, he was just like, it was like, I should have been so intimidated by this guy, but he was so nice and so willing. And I think most people are like that.
Yeah, no, they are. When I applied to the job I'm at now, I had no idea. I should have done research, but I had no idea who the CEO was. And he was in my interview, and like, one of the things you said in your form was it should be a right to enjoy work every day.
Absolutely.
And that's his whole motto. That's our whole company culture, and it's amazing how he enacts it in the company. But I remember in that interview, I was kind of questioning some of his tools and insights, and after the fact, I found out that was the CEO, and I was like pushing him and questioning him. But like what they look for are people who are eager and can lean in to new ideas. Even if it's different, it's been just such a blessing. His whole thing is like, you don't just work so you can retire. Work is a part of your life that you might not love every step of it, but you should be invested for your life with your job, or as much as you can be, right? Like I love my job, and it's cool how from when I started to where I'm at now, how that's grown through the culture. I don't know. It's pretty amazing, and our values and stuff like that. But
yeah. And I think it really, it should be a right. Like, I think that people kind of get stuck in like, oh, well, this is my job, I need the money. Like, if you don't like what you do, I think you should, put forth the effort, take the leap to find something, because there is so much fulfillment that comes from a job that you are passionate about.
Yeah.
And like, for me, like, I just think about like all the work and the headache and everything of going through and getting my undergrad, and now like my master's degree, like
you're so excited to be done.
But it would be so hard to go through all that and then just go to a job that I didn't like. Whereas like, I feel like I'm so lucky to be able to go to a job every day that I just think is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that is a blessing. That is so cool. What would you say to people who need to be financially stable, not be in what they're so passionate about yet? What would you say to those people?
Well, obviously, it's not smart to just quit your job and then go start looking for something you're passionate about. You gotta be strategic about it. Like for me, like I think space is super cool. Am I gonna quit my job tomorrow and then go and start looking at how to become an astronaut? Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Right? But like, I think that it. For me, it was like, oh, I think space is really cool. I think engineering is really cool. I'm going to set up a path where I can incorporate those into a way that makes me money. And
into a job.
I feel like not every passion is like that. For example, like skiing. Even if you're a professional skier, you don't really make all that much money. Like, you're still pretty broke.
Yeah.
And so if I would have leaned into like that passion, like I think it would be awesome to be a professional skier. But I don't think like the financial means, and for my larger life goals, it's not there.
Yeah.
So it's searching for a strategic way to find fulfillment in what you do, but also make sure that you are setting your life up for success.
Setting your life up for success strategically. The strategy part, like, I think that goes with the visualization, right? You need to visualize what you want the strategy to accomplish, I guess, right? That's interesting. I do like strategy. I feel like my brain like clicks with that word in the sense of like it's a structured plan. It has pieces to it. That sometimes pieces of it fail, right? And you evaluate, but I feel like if it's an evaluating strategy, then you might try something and realize you don't like it and stick with it just for financial reasons or whatever. And then you have your side hobbies too, that maybe that there's a free hobby that you can do to like in the meantime, right? And there's different chapters of your life, right?
Right. I don't think that like it's fair to say like you should love every second of everything you do.
Right.
Like, even in my job, like there's things that I have to do that I don't love.
Right.
And my job also starts so early in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. And like every time that alarm goes off, even though I love what I do, I'm just like, oh, I don't want to go to work. Like
yeah, I think that's just human nature sometimes. The hard is hard. And you push through it though because you have your vision in mind. You have your goals and just your path, right?
Yeah.
You just want to stay on your path.
Yeah, and in my maybe this is just like, me with my blinders on, but I always feel like the hard work and dedication I put in, like when I'm doing something I don't enjoy and working hard and just head down grinding, like not enjoying it. When I get to where, get to a milestone or get to where I want to be, looking back, you almost like cherish that. Like you almost think like, oh man, like
I worked so hard.
That was so awesome, and I worked so hard, and it adds more fulfillment than if it was just easy.
Yeah.
And so it's almost
That's
like
true.
you need to struggle in order to reach more fulfillment in your life.
You need to struggle in order to reach more fulfillment in your life. That is powerful. It's true. And like when you're in the thick of things that are hard, you really just don't want to do it.
Right.
Yeah. I think of a few examples. Like I did a 72-hour fast. And just this past week, I was fasting, for 2 meals? Barely like 12 hours, right? And I was like, how did I ever go 3 days without eating?
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
But like, I remember those moments where I literally like carpooling up to work. I remember feeling like so hungry that I was like, I'm going to die. It gets to the extreme. And then if you just like take a few deep breaths, like you make it through, and that just, you overcome moments of like incredibly hard things. And then the whole thing's still hard. But yeah, looking back, it's like amazing that I was able to push through something that crazy. I haven't done one since. But
Yeah, that's wild. But I think it's
so cool.
I think it's important to have like the ability to like be like, okay, like I'm like my mind is gonna tell my body what to do, like, and like whether it's like something physical or even just like sitting down at the desk and doing homework, like it's like who's in charge? Like, am I going to succumb to the natural man because I just worked a 10-hour day and drove 2 hours to and from work and I just want to sit on the couch and watch a TV? Or am I going to like let have my mind tell my body what to do and crank out this homework.
Mind over matter, right? Is that what you're saying?
Uh-huh.
Man. And then that leads me to what I want to end with is the quote you shared. Full send or no send.
Absolutely.
That's so hard for me sometimes because I'm like, well, what does it mean to full send? Like, I just like break it down way too much. I overthink it.
Uh-huh.
But break it down for me.
Full
send or no send?
I say that on the mountain more than anywhere else when we're skiing.
Right.
And that's because if you're going off a jump, like consequences are high. Like you
have to commit.
You're 20 feet up in the air and you're going quick. And
scary.
so if you go off and like you'll see it, I'll see it myself and I'll see it in my friends. Like if you go off and you have even the slightest speck of doubt, or you're not focused, or you're not committed, you don't full send, like you get up in the air and you freak out. And that's where you get hurt. Like you're halfway through a backflip
and you're not committed.
And you open up because you're scared, you're going to land on your head. You know, like the consequences become very high. But if you just full send it, if you full send a backflip,
you're more likely to succeed.
Like the worst thing that happens is you land back on your butt, or you clip the front of your skis and you penguin slide out of it. Like it's kind of a wild thing to say.
But you know that from experience of failing when you were in midair and you panicked.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough lesson.
You learned that you didn't full send, and that led to consequences.
Yeah, but also with things that are kind of less trivial, like with school. Like, am I going to be a C's get degrees kind of person, or am I going to full send my undergrad
get that A.
to open doors, get the A, and then get into a really prestigious school for my master's?
Yeah.
Am I going to get a master's degree, full send or no send? Might as well go somewhere that's going to really challenge me, like Johns Hopkins. Am I going to work whatever job, or am I going to try and get something that I'm passionate about? I'm going to full send it.
Yeah.
And once I get my job, like where I'm at now, like
progressing.
Yeah. Like I like got into, I got my job and I was curious about some other things. And so I full sent it and applied for this rotation program where each year you get a new discipline of engineering that you try out.
Cool.
And so you can
explore,
see what you like, see what you're good
awesome.
at. Like, and that's like, those are all things that like, if I was just kind of trying to do the minimum or trying to do a half send, like it wouldn't
take you where you want to go.
Wouldn't get there, and having like a very stable job, trying to full send and also do some real estate on the side, like
you're exhausting your options, or no, that's not the right word. You're taking your responsibilities, kind of
keeping the doors open,
kind of what we talked about.
Yeah.
Well, and when you were talking about the full send or no send, you mentioned something I thought was really cool. You have to dispel doubt in order to full send.
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
That's a very good question.
And then my mind, as you think about that, my mind went to relationships. And you're talking about like you're committed, like the top of the hill before your jump, you know that if you don't full send, it won't work. And so you full send, you commit, and you dispel your doubts, and you make it. You might fail a little, or you might slip, or I don't know how it works. My terminology is probably way off, but it might not work perfectly, but it's not a complete fail. And then like relationships, there's so much doubt and commitment issues that people have such a hard time jumping over that hurdle. And then it doesn't lead to success. The full send doesn't have that outcome of being full, I guess. Okay, thoughts?
Yeah, I think like preparation is something that can really, like, that's probably the best way to get rid of doubts. Like, when I'm skiing, like that visualization, and also just like leaning on past successes, like knowing that I can do this, focus on, okay, what is that going to feel like to do that? And then going and doing it like that. As I'm going down, if I don't think about it or mentally like prepare myself, or like, I'm going to have more doubts of, am I going to land this? Am I going to make it around? Am I going to be able to, stomp this cliff? But if I, take some time to like prepare, even if it's just like taking a deep breath before I go and try something. Yeah. And, same thing with, going, buying a rental property. That's a really scary thing. Like, and each time it's still scary. Like, I've done it 3 times and it was scary every time.
Yeah.
But going through and doing the preparation and doing, that dispels a lot of the doubts of, oh, can I do this? And then, just having a highlight reel also is very like for those times where you're just in the thick of it and you're just like I feel like I can't do this. I feel like I'm not capable. Like, just lean back on things in your life that you have done. Think about things that you've overcome and things that make you feel good. And you can get to a point where you can overcome anything mentally. And then once you do that, as long as you full send it, you're going to be fine.
That is cool. What's the connection in your mind of, so you dispel doubt, where does fear have a role in all this? Do you have fear? Like, I feel like the adrenaline is a piece of that. Like, I think women, when they are in labor, right, there's certain hormones that, like, help them forget the pain or certain things like that. And I feel like adrenaline sometimes does that to fear when you, like, act in it with, like, a calculated risk, right? Yeah.
I feel like I don't feel fear very strongly. I do feel it. I do, like, like it's not like I'm having the absence of fear, but like I feel like it takes a lot to freak me out in a lot of ways, like and I think what that comes from is just maybe it's like not thinking it through all the way, but like I'm not an anxious person. Like, I've talked to some of my friends that
nice.
Like are anxious,
I'm not that.
And just the things that they think about and just the path their head goes down is wild to me.
You overthink every.
Like, why would you think that? Like that's like insane to me. But for me, I think it's I don't know. Part of it's optimism. Part of it's feeling prepared.
That hard work and preparation.
And then also just optimism, and then not thinking about what could go wrong, but just thinking about what could go right. And then
what could go right, that can dispel fear.
Yeah. And then also just like knowing that when things go wrong, it's just whatever. Like, maybe it's just me being an engineer. Like, I love to solve problems. And so if something doesn't go right, that's just...
Or if you fail.
Yeah, or if I fail, it's just like, all right, so now I'm here. How do I move on?
Move on.
What are the sequences of events? How do I work the problem to get out of this mess?
Right.
Or, yeah.
Because I'm sure there's homework or things, I don't understand engineering, but you were talking about, like, figuring out equations and Googling it. And, like, sometimes do you hit dead ends where you feel like you can't figure it out?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
So then how do you push through that?
Yeah, I mean, with schoolwork, a lot of times it's trying, honestly, sometimes I'll just take a break from it and then come back to it. And with the fresh mind, it kind of helps, But also just, like, utilizing resources, reaching out to TAs or friends in the class or study groups. And, just working the problem, right?
Continue to prepare in all the ways, not just yourself.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I can't figure this out, by myself. I can't really figure it out with the research that I can do. Okay, let me reach out to somebody else and see if they understand it. And let me reach out to a TA.
It's work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. But I think most people know that the hard work does indeed pay off. That's cool. I think we'll leave it at that.
All right.
And I'll tag his Instagram at Steezy. Steezy?
Yeah, that's a ski word.
Harsh. That was really enlightening for me. I feel like I've missed, like, a month break of the podcast was hard because I love hearing what people light up about. And there's always connections that I personally make, and I think anyone listening can find their own personal connections as well and learn from full send or no send.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you again soon. See ya.